how women say men really just are physically into women, but they're emotionally like into their bros. You know, because they can share those things. They can.
Brought it up, so we might have to talk about it a bit. Do women mature more than men? This is a bonus episode. This is like, okay, behind the scenes context a little bit.
Do women mature more than men?
I mean, faster than men. Faster than men.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
Don't give them fuel
We can answer
already.
both questions. High key.
Yeah.
This is girls versus the boys.
Okay. For this one, I used to always think, like in my teens, I would say girls are way more mature than men. I would say that every day. Probably was my tattoo, if anything. Got to college, saw a lot.
College will do that to you.
And got out of college, right? Saw even more. What I will say is, I said it before, everything is situational. I believe that, we have a lot of women that I've met in my life, like a lot of great friends and colleagues. And they will tell me, I was one of 12 girls, right? I was one of 12 siblings. And I had to be the mom of the group. And so I had to grow up fast. I've met a lot of guys who would say I was one of 6 or I was the father of the house, and I had to grow up fast. And so I personally think that maturity is all about how you adapt it. Because you can be in a relationship as a mature girl in the sense of you have a great job, you graduated college, you believe in God, you do all these different on paper things. When it gets to your relationship, you start acting a fool. Arguments, you start throwing things, you start spreading lies, going to your friends, running to them. Where's that maturity that you had before? Do you get what I'm saying? So I believe that as women, we do have this innate maturity in us, like this mother nature, this nurturing vibe of us. And I do believe that we are very mature in how we are, but in terms of being faster than men, I think it really all depends. I can't answer that as like a straight answer. I think it really is situational, in my opinion.
Laury, what do you think?
I definitely agree. I would say that men, especially in a lot of societies being patriarchal, there is a little bit more grace for men making mistakes and being immature. Because we have like that narrative that women are more mature. They mature earlier, and I think there's just so much pressure on us to be mature earlier. But I agree. And then also, what is maturity? Because people are mature in different ways. Sometimes people are financially savvy, but their emotional maturity is it's not present.
First grade level.
Yes. So maturity is different depending on your circumstances. But I would say that like men, in my experience, like growing up in a Haitian household with 2 brothers and it's 2 girls, like our brothers, they could do anything. And like there's so much more grace for their mistakes. But for us, and then also when it comes to like relationships and our I don't want to say duty, but we carried the baby for 9 months. So like there's a lot of responsibility that we have when it comes in relationships. So I get it when my mom is like, putting a little bit more pressure on me, but that pressure is not the same for men. And I wish there was a little bit more grace to young women who make mistakes. But I agree, it really depends. I don't want to say that I'm more mature because I'm a woman. That's also a lot of pressure on myself. So that's how I feel.
The crazy thing is, though, on behalf of the man, we have been allowed to get away with a lot of BS.
That's true.
As a society, we have. Like, just to be blunt, we have. Right. All for the sake of we're the leaders, we're the alphas, right? But it could also go back to the maturity aspect. That's why I'm like, it's very subjective.
It is.
And to speak on the men's side, the reason why some men will probably think they mature faster more than women is because, like, they'll, in a sense, based on like the label of the provider and figure out how to manage the whole household, they'll have to be mature, like at a faster rate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like that provider role, that provider label, you have to be at a mature level. In a sense, you'll have to force yourself to speed it up in a sense. But honestly, it's very subjective because I've seen men literally 30s, 40s, but have the mindset of a 16-year-old.
Exactly.
Impulse buying, don't know how to save, don't know how to treat, don't know how to lead. And, you know, I've seen women on the other side as well too, quick to make mistakes, or not really make mistakes, but quick to assume, or not trying to listen, or quick to give up, or so on. So I've seen both sides. But the whole maturing aspect at the end of the day, it all goes back to, number one, what is the purpose behind it? And what is your end goal?
Right.
And I feel like we lose sight of that on both ends. So, and to the degree as well too, we try to put the genders against each other a lot. Like, oh, men versus women, when in reality, we need each other.
Yeah.
Vice versa. Just like as a woman carries the baby for 9 months, at the end of the day, the sperm needed to help make it happen. So, both, the whole 50-50 thing, to go that 50-50 route.
See, Kenny always wanted to stop this again.
But
Can't just say nothing,
in
bro.
terms of
You shouldn't even send them questions,
in terms of maturity, it is the 50-50 route.
But it's like,
But I would say that society will probably place as a cop-out, we'll try to say, oh, the woman is more mature, so the men don't have to have as much responsibility.
yeah, I've heard that in reference to like, okay, we trust in women more, but
It's a cop-out.
yeah, it's like, okay, are you really trying to help men mature more?
And
I've seen like, I've seen a lot of women who have that mindset, or women are more mature with men, but when they have little boys around them, they like to baby them. Like that's their little soldier, that's their little boyfriend. So it's like, how is your little boyfriend who's like 5 years old or whatsoever going throughout life? How is he gonna mature if you like treat him like a little kid?
And on
So
top
with their girls, they'll be harsh with their girls.
Yes.
And the messed up part is, I don't want to be that guy. I do feel like to a degree, you gotta be a little bit more harsh with the men.
I ain't gonna lie to you, do. I do.
I
know.
I'm
I'm
gonna
about
say
to
that
say,
for-
it's okay.
I'm gonna say why, because at the end of the day, no, you go, like at the end of the day, like the whole submission thing, people like to throw that, they like to throw that word.
Kenny.
No, hear me out. I'm gonna tell you why it's related, right? Because at the end of the day, what is the goal of submission? See, a lot of people get the misconception it's only beneficial to one party,
Right.
which is the man. It's not the case. It's beneficial to both. Because if your wife is submitting to you, that means she trusts in your decision making to make the best decision for us. Which in reality, you have to be emotionally aware of both of you, both of your situations.
Exactly.
So if you're not raising like the boys early on to be mature, but you're babying them in a sense, but you're putting so much pressure on the women, you're gonna have an unbalanced household in the future.
Yeah.
When it should be equal in that
And
instance. Yeah.
I see what you're saying about
Yeah.
that, because it kind of taps into, I think, the reason why a lot of, we talked about this before, about that therapy or just getting those emotions out. A lot of mothers will be hard on their daughters, especially growing up in a Haitian household, because you see yourself in her.
Yeah.
You see
The
yourself
trauma.
in her. You see that trauma in her. You see the way that either your parents or friends or whoever it may be have treated you. Whereas when your son, you're like, oh, you know, I want you to be this person, and like I want you to, you know, go like and I want you to be loving and affectionate, and of course, like that's what we want. Exactly, you know, go in the line, just do whatever you want to do, and like, I mean, that's fabulous and wonderful. But no, there shouldn't. I feel like, you know, as I don't know if you guys want to be parents. I know I want to be a parent in the future, and I know for a fact that it is important to, I don't say raise your child the same, because every child is different, but to raise under that umbrella of love, right? To raise under that umbrella of nurturing, because you want your child to be emotionally mature. You want them to have that benefit. You don't want your daughter to have to feel as though I was raised so tough and I have to be so tough because that's the way that I went about this. Like, your son, I have to be this tough. No. You can be tough while still being caring, while still being kind, while still being, I don't like the word soft, but you know.
It's that duality.
You
know
don't
what I'm
like
saying?
the word soft?
I'm not a big fan of the word
Nurturing.
soft.
Nurturing.
I love the word soft. I feel like there's so much strength in being soft.
Really?
You know, where, listen, there is a strength in being able, and I think as a woman, especially as Black women, a lot of the time we're not given the benefit to be soft.
Yeah.
And there's
That's true.
so much of our femininity that exudes in being able to just be soft, to be gentle. And it's being able to navigate the world very feminine way.
The feminine
You
energy,
know?
yeah.
And I think that it's okay to be soft. It's like there's a strength and power in it.
From a woman's perspective, like
Yes.
from a woman's point of
And
view.
then also in a man who can really lean into that softness that he has. You know, I know this is not a religious thing, but men were made in the image of God. And God has both masculine and feminine traits in him. So like a man who can lean into his softness and who can raise his children, who can love his wife, by doing that, I feel like there's a power in being able to do that.
Okay. So.
That's a different. Sorry, I just.
No. I actually like where you're going with this because I've heard this before. Is that some women say, okay, in order for them to have that softness, a guy has to be masculine enough to bring that out of them. But for guys, it's like if we don't see that softness, we're not even gonna think about the woman. So it's like, what do we do?
Yeah, there's
Go ahead.
I want you to tap in first, but I feel so about that. Go ahead.
To touch on that point, I've seen some women, they like to say that
Yeah.
as an excuse, and I'm gonna tell you.
Why?
I'm gonna tell you why.
Tell me like it.
Because at the end of the day, you're pretty much dodging the accountability on yourself by saying that if I didn't come to you heel or whole, it's your fault. The reason why I'm not acting like the woman that I should be.
Right. That's what, yeah.
So I would say to a degree as well too. That's not always the case. But in some situations as well too, it can be the case. And I'm gonna tell you why as well too. I'm gonna give you both sides. So let's say a woman's blaming the man that okay, I'm not able to showcase those feminine qualities. If the man don't got his stuff together, if he doesn't know how to lead, if he doesn't have himself like on basic principles, financials, or like how to speak, how to do all these different things, a woman, it's like that woman feels forced to step into that role because she sees you're inadequate to do it. Because things still got to get done.
So they have to.
And that's where that comes about. That's why I feel like there's both sides to it.
Kelly.
This is the one. This is the one. That
She's finding it.
Do you feel like the guy has to bring that femininity out the woman?
Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no. Because it is true. When I know if I'm feeling loved and I'm feeling like you're respecting me, if I feel as though you're meeting the criteria that I hope that you would meet, right, on paper, off of paper, I am going to be more gentle. I am going to be more kind. I'm not going to be as, I would say, I don't want to use the word controlling, but I'm not going to feel as though I have the pants on. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not going to feel as though I have to be the sergeant in the relationship, because there are a lot of women that feel as though they are the sergeant in the relationships because their man might not be meeting their certain needs. Now, when I say the no, I firmly believe that you need to come into a relationship. I'm not saying 100%, but I hope you're reaching that like 85 percentile in terms of your own self gentleness, your own self like femininity or masculinity, whatever it may be, because it really is not the person's job to do that for you, right? But it is the person's job to kind of keep that up. Does that make any sense? To protect that. You know what I'm saying? Because when you come into a relationship, you do not complete the person. You only compliment them. I could get that blue in my face. Like I say that all the time because I think people come into relationships thinking that they are going to win something, they're going to get something. The one thing that you should get is a new form of love. How to learn how to love differently, if that makes any sense. Because the way that you loved before, right, is not going to be the same as the way you love somebody else. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. So, yeah, don't let people like have to make that for you, but at the same time attain that. Like you know what I'm saying?
True. I like these answers. Because as a guy, it's like when we hearing this, like we only hear the women that kind of want to blame men for their problems. And that's the only voices that are being heard from the men on the internet. The men are hearing the women that want to blame men for the problems. The women are hearing the men that want to blame women for their problems. It's so much like immaturity in a sense. But honestly,
Go ahead.
how I feel about it,
Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but go ahead.
because I didn't say how I feel about it. I feel like yes, a man or a person should have to see that about you to attract it about you. It's not their job to bring it out of you, but like you said, like nurturing that part of you, understanding that part of you, and pretty much protecting that part of you. I don't think it's too much to say that men's masculinity can be affected by a woman. A man can be emasculated. And I don't even know if somebody's gonna say a woman can be effeminate or like defeminized and stuff.
No,
like
we
that.
talked about it could happen. We give examples, yeah.
It can sure happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're in a relationship and you're trying to be mature, you're trying to preserve that relationship for it to last a long time, you have to protect that part of them to make sure they feel valued, they feel loved, they feel pretty much, I want to say, emotionally invested in a sense. Yeah.
And what I think about that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but a man with purpose, I feel like will cause a woman to more easily tap into that side.
Not just any woman, Kenny.
No, I would say, but I'm just saying for most. I'm just saying for most because I feel like at the end of the day, I say from God, there's always select few. There's always
So dead.
but the reason why I'm saying that is I don't want to get biblical or stuff like that. But a woman's created to be that helper. But if you got nothing for her to help,
Boy.
the purpose is not there.
Jesus.
What you thinking?
No, I agree.
You agree?
I agree, and I have something to say as well. Like, you know, I think as this is us going back to the very beginning, like being true to what you want, being true to like the person you want to be in a relationship. If you feel as if your softness is being compromised as a woman, and you are not, you know, I don't know, it's your prerogative to leave. I think that instead of just blaming that person for taking hold of your softness and putting you in a place of masculinity, like, I think it's important in order to preserve those things that make you who you are, to step away if that's what it is. If that person isn't listening to your feedback, if you guys aren't able to reach an understanding, I'm not saying to give up on your relationship, but if you put in the work, you've had the conversations, you guys might have mentors, you know, some people have relationship mentors, which is nice, and you see this person isn't allowing for you to tap into your softness, allowing for you to be that woman who you want to be. I think it's important for us to recognize that we can step away. And we need to also learn to choose ourselves sometimes. But I say this in a way to speak on how we ought to work in relationships. I feel like people do give up really quickly. But after doing the work and you see it's not something that's working, you have to choose yourself sometimes. Choose that softness, because it is your strength as a woman.
Softness is a strength as well?
I think I literally love being, it's my strength. It is my strength.
Is this that whole, you know, soft girl era thing that you did you hear about that?
Yes. I will say for myself, like, I really take so much pride in like my upbringing. My mom, she was a hard mom, but she was hard so that I could be a soft daughter.
Yeah.
And like, I wish it didn't have to be that way. But she allowed for me to grow up as a soft child, a soft teenager, and now I'm a soft woman. Like, I can't see myself being any other way. But I can say that there's been experiences when I've noticed that, like, my softness was compromised, and that wasn't me. I had to step away. So I've always been in my soft girl era. Always. Always.
Kelly,
But it's a privilege.
Kelly, what you think?
I would say that it would be the word soft. It's like, you know how people hate the word moist? Like, that's how I feel about the word soft. I don't know, like, for some people, but like, or gentle, right? You know, that's my synonym for it, you know. I will say I kind of am a little bit different. I had parents who were very soft, like in terms of, I would say for a Haitian mom, she was pretty chill. I'm not gonna lie, she was pretty chill with me, and maybe it's, you know, my dad is American, so I don't know if there was a little bit of a balance there. And they raised me, of course, like strict in terms of like, you're not going to do anything you want. But, you know, I think that they did show a lot of love that I think that immigrant parents, of course, you know, sometimes there's that rep of like immigrant parents not having that love to show. And so I think it kind of flipped me in the sense, because I don't want to say I was naive, But I think that I had to learn that not everybody's going to be like my mom and dad. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what, like, I'm not going to meet every guy that I meet. It's not going to be like how my father was with me. My father he is the best man that I have in my life, and he will always be. I'm sure he'll tear up when he hears that, but it is the truth, and I had to learn. I'd say if there was a point in especially in college, I was really stern. I was really like, you ain't gonna mess with me, like, I'm that girl, like, in a relationship, like, da 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 da. And I met, guys along the way that taught me where that anger comes from, and then also where I can put my, I'll say it, softness in play, right? And now I feel like I'm a softer person now. And no, I have my moments. Oh, I just surely do.
I have to say so as well.
You know what I'm saying? We're all not perfect, but I think that you do have to learn that. I think people get messages a lot better when you are calm and assertive. When you do that whole we see a lot of celebrities today, they pride themselves on being like toxic and rah, and it's like, unless that's about my kid, right? Because when I have kids, it's all or nothing, right? Unless it's about my kid, like you're hurting my child or something, I'm not going to exude that much energy where you're going to make my blood pressure go up. Exactly. I'm not going to get a headache. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to the hospital for you, because it's not worth it. At that point, it's not worth it, so I don't know if that, pretty much.
I like the answers. I like where this conversation went. Completely off the cuff, as you guys can see. But yeah, I like this conversation. Definitely helping me understand, helping men over here understand. All of us. The best thing to have is just understanding as far as relationships. Like, definitely. Anything else?
I would say though, in terms of the whole, going back to emotional maturity in a sense, right? I do feel like for men it is just a little bit harder for one instance. Sometimes we're not granted that grace to be open up with our emotions, as though being viewed as weak, or in this case soft, but in a negative sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, oh, what, you're breaking down over this? How you gonna protect me? How you gonna provide? How you gonna lead us?
Yeah.
When you bawling out tears over this, or you're being so insensitive or being so sensitive towards that. So I feel like it's hard for most men to be open up with their emotions because of the stigma of the battle of being viewed as weak or inadequate, or I'm not able to provide enough, I'm not able to be strong enough, so it's tough.
Do you feel like you expect a certain response from women? Do you feel as though, you expect us to be nurturing, and there's times where we're probably not within you opening up?
I feel like for most men will probably, that would be nice if the option is there, but most men probably wouldn't take that chance because of the risk of the other side, of it being us being ridiculed, or us being like, dang, now she got me questioning if I'm man enough for this, man enough for that, all because of one moment of weakness.
Yeah.
It's a real thing for some men.
Do you feel like there is an outlet for you to show that emotion? Because I do hear, I'll just put a little bit of context, and you've probably heard it, like how women say men really just are physically into women, but they're emotionally into their bros, because they can share those things. They can. They can open up, and there's not that stigma, there's not that ridicule, there's not that fear. So I want to know, do you feel like you have an emotional outlet when it comes to feelings that you have, and are you secure enough to open up to a woman, or how do you feel about that?
For me personally, or
just for you, both of y'all?
This is good.
Well, I'll say it depends, but also there is a sense of being prepared for this world to turn it against you. Because at the end of the day, being vulnerable with this person, you generally don't know how they're going to react. So a part of you, yes, wants to be vulnerable, wants to open up, but you do have to accept the possibility of this person taking it and throwing it back in your face. So it comes down to also that therapy part. Because I'm throwing wild emotions at this girl, and she throws it back at me, and I was like, dang, I'm really hurt of it. But if I'm taking the time to process it by myself, I've developed good techniques around processing my emotions, having my outlets, aside from my relationship, then I'm more prepared or more durable if something goes south with this girl. But also picking the right girl as well. Because if I'm picking the wrong girl, I'm throwing out these emotions. It doesn't matter how good I process it. She could take it in like a dagger and stab it. So it's like, of course, you have to process it yourself, but be okay with opening up and this person throwing it back in your face.
That's a good one. I would say for me, personally, I would say I've been blessed to have a partner that actually understands. But I understood, like, at the end of the day, it took time, and number two, is understanding, like, not to dump everything onto her in that sense, but also to know what I can dump and the right time to do it. And I feel that's where the maturity part comes in, because if you know your girl has other things she has to handle, and you're going through this, it won't be wise to dump everything on her, boom, right then and there, because you don't want her to emotionally collapse. At the end of the day, your role is still to protect her. And it's not just physically, it's her heart. It's her sanity. And I feel like a lot of men sometimes forget that when women say, oh, they're looking for a provider, it's not just financial that the women are talking about. It's emotional stability, it's sanity, mental stability as well too. Because you have to keep in mind, society already views women a specific type of way. Then on top of that, she got to deal with you not being on top of yourself. Then on top of that, she got to deal with the world. So it's like...
He's not talking to people. He's
but in general, but just at the end of the day, you have to be some form of a safe haven. And in terms of, like, the reason why most guys find it easier to talk to their, to the boys, to the homies, is like, at the end of the day, they don't have to worry about that it backfiring on them, because at the end of the day, it's not their job to emotionally, how should I say, protect their friend, protect each other. I mean, yes, but no, because which woman is different. It's like, you could be weak someone in front of guys, and they could laugh it off in a sense with genuineness.
It depends on the guys though, because
for some,
if the guys if the guys are not holding you accountable, then it's easy to open up, because I know this not gonna backfire me. Or they're not gonna hold me accountable. Like, if I'm accountable, my boys are holding me accountable, and I bring them an issue, they're gonna be like, okay, do you have a plan to figure it out? Do you need help figuring it out? Do you, like, understand this about yourself and stuff like that? In that case, they can hold me accountable in that kind of sense. But if my boys are not holding me accountable whatsoever, they just let me do whatever, then it's okay to let loose with the guys. But with the girl, it's going to come back at you.
But one thing as well, too, is, like, how did you build up that circle of guys to begin with?
Exactly. And back to the guys versus boys, because we talk about accountability, especially with our emotions. Because it's like, if our boys ain't going to hold us accountable, by the time we get to this girl, we're already immature.
That is something to think about. That is something to think about, because I think we throw a lot of things in our, I keep saying in our generation, but I will say that at people our age, I think because we have so many expectations for ourselves, we're putting a lot of our expectations on this potential person. And I say potential person because it takes a minute for you. I'm a person, it takes a minute for me to build with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I first meet you, I'm not going to think we're going into the sunset tomorrow. It's not going to happen because I got to make sure, I got to check with myself first.
And that's what
I have to check with myself first. Yeah. And I got to check with you. You know, like, we have to check with each other. And I think that it kind of goes back into when we discuss about talking about your friends and whatnot. Who is your circle? Who is your circle? Because I know a handful of people who are in a lot of circles. And I've been in that circle before too, where you just got all these different, just this different, no man, you have to do this with her, you have to go this way with her. They don't even know her. They don't know you. You know, how do you give advice to something that you don't know? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that when we talk about this advice, or we talk about this being there for your friends and whatnot, you have to give them the advice that I think that you would tell yourself, of course, but that you also know that everything is up for situation, I think. Because I think that, I used to think like the people you hang around doesn't reflect you. I used to think like that all the time. As I get into my adulthood, I do believe that who you surround yourself with does have an impact in your life, whether you think it does or not. And you'll see it. Whether you see it now, whether you see it today, it does have an impact of your life and who's in there in your relationships. I feel like you'll find it in weird ways.
I agree. And even if you don't do the same things that your circle does, if you see how they react to certain situations, you start building hesitation within yourself.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
dang, like so and so went through a heartbreak easily. Maybe I should open up to this, to this woman right now, just because of what you seen, what your friend went through.
Exactly.
So.
Or oh, she wasn't on time for this. Oh, that means because my homeboy and her girl wasn't like it's just insane.
Very true. That's pure,
insane.
pure pressure.
It is.
It's for the rest of our lives. We're influenced by our peers. So.
True.
And I do feel like when someone is trying to give you advice, but they're not willing to listen to your side of the story at all, it's not good advice to listen to at all. Because at the end of the day, is what you're saying. How can I give advice on something I haven't experienced? On top of me not wanting to listen to the person who was already going through the experience.
Exactly.
So, and I feel like, when it comes to some guys, like, it's easy to give someone this type of advice. Because I'm only looking on the outside in. But I'm choosing not to look at your perspective as well, too, to see, dang, I know what type of person you are. Let me see how you came to this specific conclusion and give you better advice suited for you. So.
Oof. I like this conversation. It's completely out the woodworks, completely unplanned, but I like this conversation. Thank you guys for watching this little bit of a bonus episode, but I wish you all the best. And for the rest,